always loved the thrill of urban exploration. My name is Lily, and I run a YouTube channel dedicated to uncovering the forgotten corners of the world, places left to decay and be swallowed by nature. My viewers love the adrenaline rush, the mystery, and the stories that these abandoned locations hold. Tonight, I was preparing for one of my most ambitious explorations yet, the old Riverton Asylum. The city was shrouded in a thick fog as I drove towards the outskirts where the asylum lay in ruins. The air was damp, and the streets were eerily silent, only the distant hum of traffic breaking the stillness. My heart pounded with a mix of excitement and anxiety. I parked my car a few blocks away to avoid drawing attention and grabbed my backpack, heavy with gear. My flashlight cut through the fog as I approached the towering structure, its silhouette looming ominously against the night sky. The Riverton Asylum had been abandoned for decades, a relic of a bygone era where the mentally ill were often hidden away and forgotten. Stories of mistreatment, mysterious deaths, and ghostly apparitions had turned the place into an urban legend. It was the perfect backdrop for my next video, a chance to delve into the history and perhaps capture something truly extraordinary on camera. I set up my camera at the entrance, the red recording light blinking in the darkness. Hey guys, it's Lily here, back with another exploration adventure. Tonight, we're diving into the infamous Riverton Asylum, a place shrouded in mystery and horror. Let's see what secrets we can uncover. My voice echoed slightly as I spoke, the sound carrying into the emptiness beyond the broken doors. With a deep breath, I stepped inside. The air was stale, filled with the scent of mold and decay. The floor was littered with debris, remnants of a once functioning institution now reduced to rubble. I could feel the weight of the building's history pressing down on me, every creak and groan of the structure amplifying the sense of unease. I switched on my flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness to reveal long, empty corridors lined with decaying doors. As I ventured deeper into the asylum, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It wasn't unusual for these places to feel oppressive, but tonight felt different. My footsteps echoed loudly, the sound bouncing off the walls and making it feel as though someone, or something, was following me. I tried to focus on my commentary, describing the eerie beauty of the decay and the chilling history of the asylum, but the sense of unease grew with each step. The deeper I went, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. I passed through what must have been patient rooms, each one a small, claustrophobic cell with rusted bed frames and peeling wallpaper. The asylum seemed to go on forever, a maze of endless hallways and staircases leading to who knew where. My flashlight flickered, the battery struggling in the cold, damp air. I reached the old recreation room, its windows shattered, and the floor covered in a thick layer of dust. The furniture was overturned, and the walls were covered in graffiti and strange symbols. I panned my camera around, capturing the desolation. Look at this place, guys. It's like stepping into a different world. Imagine what it was like when this place was operational, the lives that were lived and lost here. My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. Then I heard it, a faint rustling sound coming from one of the darkened corners of the room. My heart skipped a beat, and I swung my flashlight in the direction of the noise. There was nothing there, just shadows playing tricks on my mind. I took a deep breath and continued my exploration, but the sense of being watched grew stronger. In one of the rooms, I found old medical records scattered across the floor. The files were yellowed with age, detailing treatments and patient histories. I picked up one of the files, flipping through the pages. It was heartbreaking to read about the people who had been confined here, their lives reduced to a series of symptoms and diagnoses. As I recorded my findings, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The further I went, the more intense the feeling became. I started hearing footsteps behind me, soft and almost imperceptible. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it an animal, another explorer, or something more sinister? My hand trembled as I held the camera, trying to keep my voice steady. I think I might not be alone here, guys. There's definitely something off about this place. Suddenly, the footsteps grew louder, more deliberate. I spun around, my flashlight revealing a dark figure standing at the end of the corridor. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make out who or what it was. The figure stepped closer, and I could see the outline of a man, his face hidden in the shadows. Panic set in as I realized that this was no ghost or figment of my imagination. This was a real person. The man stepped into the light, and I recognized him immediately. He was one of my followers, someone who had commented frequently on my videos. His name was David, and he had always seemed harmless, just another fan of urban exploration. But the look in his eyes now was anything but harmless. It was a look of obsession and madness. "Hello, Lily," he said, his voice cold and menacing. "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. You didn't think you'd come here alone, did you?" My mind raced as I tried to understand what was happening. David had been stalking me, following my every move online and now in real life. He had somehow found out about my plans and decided to confront me here, in this dark, abandoned asylum. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" David's smile sent a chill down my spine. "I just wanted to meet you, Lily. I've been watching your videos, and I feel like I know you. We belong together." His words were twisted, filled with a delusional sense of connection. I backed away slowly, my mind racing with escape plans. "You're wrong, David. You don't know me. You need help. Just let me go, and we can get you the help you need." But David's expression hardened, and he took another step towards me. "No, Lily. You're not leaving. Not until you understand how much you mean to me." I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. The corridors seemed to stretch endlessly before me, each turn leading to another dark, foreboding hallway. David's footsteps echoed behind me, getting closer with each passing second. I ducked into a small room, slamming the door shut behind me and barricading it with a rusty bed frame. My hands shook as I fumbled with my phone, trying to call for help. There was no signal, and the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was completely alone, trapped in this nightmare with no way out. I could hear David outside the door, his voice low and taunting. "You can't hide forever, Lily. I'll find you." Desperation took over, and I started looking for another way out. There was a small window high up on the wall, but it was too small for me to fit through. My eyes scanned the room, searching for anything that could help me defend myself. I found an old metal pipe and gripped it tightly, ready to fight for my life. David's patience ran out, and he began pounding on the door, the wood splintering under the force of his blows. I knew it was only a matter of time before he broke through. My mind raced, trying to think of a plan. Then I remembered the old maintenance tunnels I had seen on a map of the asylum. They might lead to an exit, but I had to get past David first. The door burst open, and David lunged at me. I swung the pipe with all my strength, catching him off guard and knocking him to the ground. I didn't wait to see if he was down for good. I ran, my legs burning with the effort, and found the entrance to the tunnels. The darkness was almost absolute, but I pressed on, guided by the faint glimmer of hope that I might find a way out. The tunnels twisted and turned, a labyrinth of concrete and rusted metal. I could hear David's footsteps behind me, growing fainter as I put distance between us. My flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into complete darkness. I stumbled blindly, my hands feeling along the walls for guidance. Finally, I saw a sliver of light ahead. It was an exit, partially blocked by debris but still passable. I squeezed through the narrow opening and emerged into the night air, gasping with relief. My ordeal wasn't over yet, I needed to find help and fast. I ran towards the main road, my lungs burning and my legs feeling like lead. In the distance, I saw flashing lights. The police had arrived, alerted by someone who had seen my car parked nearby and reported suspicious activity. I waved my arms, shouting for help, and they rushed to my aid. Through tears and gasps, I explained what had happened, pointing back towards the asylum where David was still lurking. The officers moved quickly, securing the area and entering the building. It didn't take long for them to find David, who was still dazed from our encounter. They arrested him, and I watched as he was led away in handcuffs, his eyes still filled with that same twisted obsession. In the days that followed, I struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The physical injuries healed quickly, but the psychological scars ran deep. I found myself looking over my shoulder, jumping at every unexpected sound. My channel took a hiatus as I tried to process the trauma and decide what to do next. Eventually, I returned to urban exploration, but with a newfound caution and respect for the dangers it could bring. I installed better security measures, both for my online presence and during my explorations. My viewers were supportive, their messages of concern and encouragement helping me through the darkest times. Reflecting on the ordeal, I realized how close I had come to losing everything. But I also discovered a strength within myself that I never knew I had. I had faced my worst nightmare and survived. And while the experience had changed me, it had also made me more resilient. Thank you for watching, and remember to always stay safe out there, I said in my first video back, a new resolve in my voice. The Riverton Asylum had taken something from me, but it had also given me a new perspective on life and the importance of vigilance. And as I closed the video, I knew that my journey was far from over. I never believed in the supernatural, not until that fateful night. My name is John, and urban exploration was more than just a hobby, it was an obsession, a thirst for adrenaline that drove me into the shadows of forgotten places. Every creak of old wood, every whisper of wind through broken windows, was a symphony to my ears. I had seen my share of abandoned factories, crumbling hospitals, and desolate houses, but nothing could have prepared me for what lay within the walls of the Dunwich Building. The night we chose for our expedition was cold and moonless. The city itself seemed to hold its breath as we gathered at our usual meeting spot, a deserted park on the outskirts of town. The streets were eerily quiet, the only sound the distant hum of traffic and the occasional bark of a stray dog. Alex, my best friend and fellow thrill-seeker, was the first to arrive. His eyes gleamed with excitement as he handed me a flashlight. "Ready for this?" he asked, a grin spreading across his face. Sarah and Marcus joined us shortly after. Sarah, with her dark hair pulled back and her backpack brimming with tech gadgets, was the skeptic of the group. She believed in rational explanations and scientific evidence, and tonight was no different. Marcus, on the other hand, was our rock. Tall and sturdy, with an air of unshakable confidence, he was the one we all looked to in moments of doubt. As we approached the Dunwich Building, its silhouette against the night sky sent a shiver down my spine. The structure loomed over us like a sentinel of forgotten times, its windows shattered, and the walls covered in graffiti and ivy. The Dunwich Building had a notorious reputation. Stories of cryptids and ghostly apparitions were whispered in hushed tones among the locals, tales of unexplained deaths and mysterious disappearances that had turned the place into an urban legend. But we were drawn by the allure of the unknown, eager to debunk the myths and uncover the truth. As we stood before the rusted gates, a sense of foreboding washed over me, but I pushed it aside, determined to see this adventure through. As we crossed the threshold into the Dunwich Building, the temperature seemed to drop instantly. An oppressive silence enveloped us, broken only by the soft crunch of debris under our boots. The air was thick with the smell of decay and something else, something I couldn't quite place. It felt as if the building itself was alive, watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike. We decided to split into pairs to cover more ground. Alex and I took the upper floors, while Sarah and Marcus stayed on the ground level. Sarah immediately set up her equipment, her fingers moving deftly over the controls. She placed sensors and cameras in strategic locations, hoping to capture any evidence of the paranormal. But even she couldn't hide her unease as the readings on her devices began to flicker and jump erratically. The first sign of trouble came when we heard a low growl echoing through the empty corridors. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down my spine. We dismissed it as the wind, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger with every step. Shadows seemed to move at the edge of our vision, darting away when we tried to focus on them. The old wooden floorboards creaked and groaned under our weight, adding to the sense of unease. We stumbled upon an old office, its walls lined with dusty files and yellowed documents. The furniture was covered in a thick layer of dust, untouched for years. Alex found a journal that detailed the tragic history of the building, a series of unexplained deaths and disappearances that had plagued the place for decades. The last entry was particularly chilling: "Do not disturb the spirits that dwell here." The handwriting was shaky, the words barely legible, as if the author had been in a state of sheer terror. Ignoring the warning, we pressed on. The further we ventured, the more intense the feeling of dread became. Sarah's equipment began to malfunction in earnest. The screens flickered, displaying distorted images and erratic readings. She tried to make sense of it, but the data was incomprehensible. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being warped by some unseen force. Suddenly, we were confronted by a creature unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was a cryptid, a grotesque amalgamation of nightmares. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence, and it moved with unnatural grace. Panic set in. We ran, our footsteps echoing through the hallways. Doors slammed shut behind us, and ghostly figures materialized, their hollow eyes staring into our souls. In the chaos, we got separated. I found myself alone, the darkness closing in around me. Desperation drove me to find the others. I stumbled through the building, every corner revealing new horrors. I heard Alex's voice calling out, and I followed it, only to find myself in a dead end. The cryptid was close, its growls growing louder. My heart pounded in my chest as I searched for an escape route, my mind racing with fear and adrenaline. By some miracle, we reunited. Sarah's face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. Marcus, always the skeptic, now looked genuinely frightened. We were cornered, the cryptid blocking our path. In a final, desperate act, we devised a plan to escape. Sarah used her technical skills to create a diversion, while Marcus and I prepared to make a run for it. The cryptid was momentarily distracted, giving us a slim chance to flee. We burst out of the building, the cold night air hitting us like a slap. But the ordeal had left its mark. Alex had a deep gash on his arm, and Sarah's equipment was ruined. We never spoke of what we saw that night, but the memory haunts me. I still hear the growls in my dreams, and sometimes, I see those hollow eyes staring back at me from the shadows. The Dunwich building remains abandoned, a silent witness to our encounter with the unknown. And I, forever changed, carry the burden of that night, knowing that some doors should never be opened.